it's a very difficult one that the Burkinabe are facing. Tell us more about the main findings highlighted in this report. And Eliara, good afternoon to you, and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon to you all. Thank you for having me. Our report is based on witness accounts and the analysis of other evidence, including satellite images and videos, and describes the recent attacks carried out by Islamist armed groups in Burkina Faso. We documented two deadly attacks by the Al Qaeda offshoot Jenim and one by the Islamic State in the Sahel province. Overall, as you said, such attacks killed more than 50 civilians, including children and women. And I would say that this is just a partial snapshot of what's happening in the country, because the civilian death toll in the conflict in Burkina Faso is unknown, as there is no mechanism in place to track and count civilian casualties. But it is estimated that over 10,000 people have been killed since the insurgency began in 2016. I have to remember also that the conflict has displaced more than 2 million people in and outside the country, so causing a huge humanitarian crisis. And the attacks we documented also occurred in a context of renewed violence in Burkina Faso and also in the Sahel region more generally, with a considerable upsurge in jihadist activity in Burkina Faso, but also in Mali and Niger. And while the Jenim remains the dominant armed group in the region, the Islamic State in the Sahel has also been expanding its activity in the region significantly.
And what sort of response are you getting from the authorities in terms of reaction to this report?
We have sent letters to the Burkinabe authorities where we detailed our findings and requested answers to specific questions, but the government did not respond. In the past, the Minister of Justice had responded to our requests for information, but since almost a year now, all our questions have gone unanswered. And this is, of course, regrettable and concerning, since we are keen to keep the door open for dialogue and exchanges with the military junta. And I think it's in their best interest to provide information to human rights groups and the civil society. But these authorities appear to be increasingly intolerant vis-a-vis any forms of dissent, opposition, and scrutiny, and have also used the pretext of terrorism and instability in the country to suppress fundamental rights and freedoms, including, through arbitrary arrests, disappearances, and unlawful conscriptions of political opponents, human rights defenders, journalists, and even judges. So we got a response instead from the Jenim. The group responded to our request for information, and we published their response in full. I think it's crucial to give a right to reply to all concerned parties. We would have done the same if the government had responded to our questions, of course.
You touch on terrorism-related crimes, and going back to 2017, the Burkina Faso government established a specialized judicial unit against terrorism-related crimes. Has this unit been effective in any way? And does it still exist?
Well, that's a very good question. First of all suspects implicated in terrorism-related offenses are transferred to the Ouagadougou high security prison, and all their cases are investigated and adjudicated by this specialized judicial unit, which is based in the capital, was created back in 2017. It has dedicated judges, staff, and a trial chamber. However, investigations are moving very slowly. and the unit is facing several challenges, including, the lack of sufficient funds and personnel, which is an obstacle, and it's hindering its capabilities to deliver on its mandate, but also to ensure due process rights. And so the specialized unit was created almost 10 years ago, but only heard the first case in 2021. And then it took another year to hear more cases. So it would be extremely important for adequate resources to be allocated to this unit so it can function well and appropriately.
Is enough focus given to Burkina Faso when it comes to, the crisis that is unfolding there?
I don't think that the crisis has been given the attention it deserves. It's one of the most neglected humanitarian crises and conflict around the world, despite the severe situation faced by the civilians and the mass displacement of the population in and outside the country. I think the international community needs to keep an eye on Burkina Faso and raise its voice to address the very serious challenges in terms of civilian protection, but also justice and accountability for the crimes committed in the conflict.
And what has happened to the people that you have managed to interview and have conversation with regards to what they face in Burkina Faso?
Well, we spoke to witnesses to the attacks, to the families of the victims, and their accounts were often very chilling. People explained how they survived, they escaped either the Jenim or the Islamic State attacks when Islamist fighters shot at people indiscriminately or executed them in cold blood. That was the case, for example, of the attack in Djibo town in May, where the Jenim targeted civilians whom it accused of supporting or joining the VDPs, the civilian auxiliaries supporting the army in their counterinsurgency operations. It was a major attack. The fighters overran the military base. They looted the police and gendarmerie stations. They burned down several shops at the market, and they took control of the city for almost a day. And people were frightened. They hid in their homes for almost 3 days before coming out when the army actually came to secure the area. And during the attack, the fighters killed over 26 people. They entered several neighborhoods of the town. They went door to door. They massacred civilians, including women. And so you can imagine how people have lived these terrible moments. And of course, this attack left them with deep psychological and wounds and trauma.
And just in wrapping up, what is your appeal to authorities in Burkina Faso?
We think that the authorities should do more to address civilian protection and justice and accountability. I think it's crucial that the military authorities act on these issues soon, because the government has an obligation to impartially investigate and prosecute those implicated in war crimes. So they should investigate, prosecute in accordance with, fair trial standards. All the members of the security forces and Islamist armed groups who have been responsible for serious abuses. They should promptly, also communicate the findings of these investigations. They have often promised investigations on some serious cases of mass killings, but so far investigations have stalled, and there's no public information available about whether anyone has been heard or arrested. So this is our main recommendation for the authorities in terms of the findings of our report recently, but more, generally our research.
Well, Ilaria, thank you for joining us on Africa Update. We are going to leave it there for today.
Thank you.
That's Ilaria Allegrozzi, Senior Sahel Researcher at Human Rights Watch, joining us on the line.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo.